individual that lives in a household of over $100,000 a year. You want to know where to find that person? You want to put content out to them? Well, that's going to be YouTube. 89% of the people that use YouTube hit that. And, I think Facebook is 68%. Instagram is in the 50s. It's the data is there for you to know exactly where you need to be marketing.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Reserve Podcast. I'm Jason Balen from Hard Money Bankers, co-host Ian Horowitz from Equity Warehouse. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. We've got a great guest named Joe Killinger who we're going to bring on in a second. Looking forward to that conversation. If you're a regular viewer, follower, listener, watcher, thanks again for all the support. We certainly couldn't do it without you. We love bringing on guests from all over the country that are actively investors, actively in residential or commercial real estate, and just seeing what they're up to in this day and age. And I know Joe's been active here for a while, and looking forward to that conversation, Ian.
Yeah, I'm excited for the topic. It's one that's near and dear to my heart because I think a lot of people miss the mark. And I know in our conversation before we hopped on here, Joe shares a very similar investing mindset that we do. Just because you see it on TV doesn't mean it can happen. So I'm excited to have this conversation. But more importantly, Joe's a regular guy just like us. The best support we can give him is not the likes. It's not the subscribes to ourselves. It's the shares. If we can share the content, get it out there, many people need to hear it. And that's the best compliment that we can give our guests who are real people doing real deals, taking the time out of their day to come and do this podcast. But enough about us. Let's hop on and let's bring Joe in.
Joe, how are you?
Hey guys, how are you? Thank you for having me on today.
Yeah, man. Excited.
Absolutely. Why don't we just start with just a quick background about who Joe Killinger is?
Yeah, well, that's good God, Ian. How much water do you drink in a day?
Dude, I need to grow the beard. I got to keep it hydrated. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't drink that much water. I can tell you that. I do like my water, but not that much. But I'm Joe Killinger. I have Commercial Brokers International based out of Los Angeles. We also have an investment company. We buy properties, some mostly focused on single tenant net lease deals. And mostly right now we're focused in Texas, looking at a few deals right now. We also have Icon Capital, a commercial real estate mortgage company. And then we have the Commercial Real Estate Affiliate Network. That's a group of independent commercial real estate brokerages around the company that all work together. And then last but not least, I have, you can see my website behind the Joe Killinger, if I can move my big head out of the way, joekillinger.co, where we do it's help for commercial real estate brokerages. They're trying to get their business launched, and we do mentoring. And in some cases, we're looking at buying a few of them right now as well.
Yeah, let's talk about this. I'm going to hop right into it because you kind of alluded to this before we hopped on. Is like, let's talk about the residential real estate. And we talk to a lot of investors, but this is same whether you're an investor or you're a residential broker going to be a commercial broker. What do you think are some pitfalls that people overlook going from the residential space, either as a broker or as an investor, going to the commercial space? Because a lot of people seem to miss steps, but it's also equally as much not that hard.
Yeah. Between residential and commercial real estate, it's two different worlds. It's not the same business, essentially. Commercial real estate is something that you really have the opportunity to build a business, right? I've done both. I've done residential and I've done commercial. I did residential for a good amount of pretty good time, but it wasn't really my thing, but it was just kind of my next step from where I was doing real estate auctions in the beginning. And then when that started phasing out, a lot of the properties we were doing, I had access to banks that were doing single family or condos that they were still getting off the books. So I started doing residential through that. And then I just phased into just doing regular retail sales. And, the thing is, when you do a lease or sale, every time you did one, you had to go out and find new business, right? And so you're constantly starting over, which really taught you how to do marketing very well, which is very important. But with commercial, you really have an opportunity to build a business because you can connect with an investor or a company and help them find more locations, or an investor is going to be looking for more investments. So I think that's the big thing that is really sets them apart. There's really an opportunity to build a business. But, commercial has just now trying to figure out, the residential agents have been doing it right with all the marketing. and commercial is trying to getting that figured out right now, and it's starting to take hold. AI is going to help a lot, and so I think residential, it was, these guys are great at doing their marketing. Commercial is just it's in its infancy stages, but AI is going to make it more appealing to a younger generation. The average age of a commercial real estate agent is anywhere between 55 to 62, somewhere in there. It's a broad range, but older. AI is bringing younger generation. It's making it more appealing to them. And so we're starting to see younger people come into the business.
Well, yeah. Go ahead, Jeff.
Why is that with just technology and and things like that? That is just what has never been developed because it's such a dinosaur offline business.
Jason, you aren't kidding. It's a dinosaur business we're in. But it's evolving quickly. It was always done the same old way, kind of the good old boys network for a lot of years. But you're starting to see younger generation finding with these new systems and AI, they're finding it to be enjoyable, and they're growing business. We've got agents that have been with us for a few months, and they got multiple deals going. And one of them came from property management, one came from a residential firm, but had been doing some commercial. But they're busy as heck, but they know how to market themselves. And so they can go, if at my age, I'm mostly just doing, working my referrals, right? I'm working the people that I know. Well, a younger person get into the business and really focus on an asset class and really market to that asset class in that area. And they can take that business. They're going to be more visible. And so there's a huge opportunity for younger generation to get into business right now.
And do you think like some of the holdback and like Jason mentioned, like the offline part, like that's the part that I enjoy about commercial real estate is building the relationships with the brokers. But do you think a lot of the reservation of getting into commercial real estate, either as a broker, let's talk about brokers, is the underwriting, the process that it takes to be able to put together a deal package? Because it's more than just comping square footage or acreage. Like you guys are looking at net value of these properties. And is that where you think AI is going to help younger generation to be able to get into that too?
Yeah, it's already happening. I've looked at a couple of systems where you're just going to be able to input the numbers. You're going to have to know how to verify them, though. You can't just put it in the system and that's going to be true, but you need to be able to verify them. But yeah, the AI is just making it so much easier across the back end and the front end of the entire process for commercial brokerage.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. And it's going to be interesting, I think, real estate wide of what that's going to look like, right? Like not only commercial, but single family, mortgage brokers, all you guys, like being able to input that data and be able to calculate it faster. Us as investors to be able to say, hey, like I've been doing this $50 million acquisition challenge on my coaching community over at CRE-syndicate.com. And, I've been testing AI platforms to underwrite. I don't think they're 100% there, but it's interesting to watch how other people calculate and compute the data that goes into underwriting properties.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's going to really open it up. I mean, we're a smaller firm. We're 16 agents in Commercial Brokers International, and but we get a lot of young people that are creating this AI. And I'll take calls with them. I say, listen, I'll do a 15-minute call with you, and we do probably 2 a month. They're testing their AI, and they want ideas from people that have been in the business a while. The way they can adapt and create these tools for you to use for commercial real estate, it's amazing. Where the real thing's going to be is the analytics. Every piece of data that you want, you're going to be able to assemble it in seconds. And so it's going to create if you know what you're doing, which most people are going to have to learn it, right? It's going to be just the most amazing tool.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of the softwares now that have had data, they just didn't have a way to display it, have insights, have pulse. These are just terms that on some of the data, some of the tools that I use that I've noticed that those are the keywords that they've been using because they have the data. Like portraying it, shouldn't be all that difficult if it's already aggregated. And I would venture to guess that, in the commercial world, it is hard unless you subscribe to resources. There's no front-facing consumer, place to get that. To get that, there's no Redfin or stuff that on the residential side. I mean, residential or Zillow. I subscribe to CREXC and LoopNet and things like that. So like I can access some of that data, and it's pretty, good, easily accessible data, and as soon as that's kind of open to the public as well, you might have investors that are kind of trying to do some of the resources themselves. And I guess that's what you mean by kind of younger generation AI stuff that just makes it a little bit more intriguing. And again, like I've always felt like right now you have to rely on someone to help you with the information, but just because that information is available doesn't mean that they're not going to still use somebody for the, for their expertness and be experienced. But it almost helps the broker or helps them with tools to help educate their client first anyways, before they kind of come to you. So I don't think that's necessarily, a bad thing. Like it doesn't have to be a locked
not at all.
Like, yeah.
You think about when I started the industry, which was a while ago, and we were using microfiche to look at property, some information, and now look at it.
You're dating yourself.
Trust me, I know. It was a new form of microfiche. It wasn't the old school one, but no, it was. That's what we've come. But we're going to go faster than that now. Where we're at now, a few years from now, it's not going to be the same world in the industry. But here's the thing: is a broker, you're going to have to keep up with it because your clients are going to, and they're going to have all that data. So when I started off, the brokers controlled all the data, right? That was our thing. We controlled it all. We moved at our speed. Well, now your clients have access to this information. So you as a broker, you better know what's going on in your marketplace because your client's going to. So it's going to change both sides of our industry. We don't control the information, or still some of it, but not all of the information like we used to. And that's going to change even faster now.
Yeah. That's a good point. And I don't think that should scare brokers anyways. I think that'll help them do their job better. And listen, experience is still experience. Just because the data is only one bucket over here, that doesn't necessarily mean that just because you have the data, you know what's going on in a local area, local market, knowing people. Like you still need a broker or a real estate agent. You still need, lenders. You still need experts that do this every day. Yeah. As a tool in your toolbox, right? It's part of it. So, I think that's a good thing.
Still deals that are going off mark, and that's in commercial real estate. Like we just had our office meeting a few minutes ago, and there's probably 15 deals that our agents have that are not yet on the market. The seller is just not ready, but our agents talk about it. They'll talk about it with agents from other companies before it comes on the market. And so there's always going to be that aspect in commercial real estate. It's just the amount of data that you're able to get your hands on now. It's absolutely amazing. And, as far as your marketing, you can really, when we started with social media marketing, we've been doing it now for a long 18 years. And so we were one of the first ones to do it. And, it's the data that you can get now is amazing. I mean, if you want to get hold of the people that make individual that lives in a household of over $100,000 a year, you want to know where to find that person. You want to put content out to them. Well, that's going to be YouTube. 89% of the people that use YouTube hit that. And, I think Facebook is 68%. Instagram is in the 50s. It's the data is there for you to know exactly where you need to be marketing. But when we started, you just it was a dart in the dark, right? You threw it all out there. So changing a lot. And leases now, there's a guy that we were talking to a couple of weeks ago. You can just take your lease, put it in scan it into your system, and AI has copied it. And you can take everything that you've got through the process, put it in, it'll kick you the lease out with all the changes. And it takes 30 seconds. They'll be the same for, investment contracts as well, sales contracts.
I know.
Yeah.
I just sent a contract for review to my lawyer, and I was like, God damn, dude, this is like so antiquated. I wish there was something out there I could like read it and be like, all right, this is interpreted this way and save a few bucks. But then I guess the lawyers cost more when they get less work because then they feel, I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, I'm interested to see what happens with the AI overall. When you're looking at some of this data, I mean, you mentioned it a few times that AI can analyze it. Like, and I think you mentioned single tenant net leases is your favorite. Like, what data are you specifically looking for in a listing?
Well, I actually haven't done day-to-day. I run our companies right now. I haven't done it for a while. But with our agents, we're looking at, you can go in and pour the data now to where, like when we started, you can go in and look at your traffic count, walkability, all of that for the location. Is it a signalized intersection? And then you can go in and see, you can just put in a system and see what clients are looking for something like that. And you can call them. Whereas when we started out, we had to go put all this data together. I mean, you can put all the data together now in a couple of minutes, and then you can go on a few other websites. You can see, okay, these guys want to be in this area. This fits everything they're looking for. Let me call them. And but when we did it, we just had to kind of dart in the dark and just start calling people that might want to come into that area, and with the type of food. And now you can, or you go into a retail store. Let's say you want to go into a mall, you can go get all the data you want about where people are going in the mall. And you carry these damn cell phones with you everywhere, right? Well, they're tracking you constantly, and you can buy the data. Obviously, it doesn't tell you your name or anything like that, but it's a heat map of where everybody's going in the mall, and where they're staying the longest, and when they're just where they're not going. Why you don't want to be. It's going to be cheaper over there, but if you want to be a hot spot in the mall, that data all exists already. And so
that's crazy,
isn't it? Yeah. There's a lot of data I think we know that's being gathered on us. We probably don't even realize, but
well, I'm sure if that's getting gathered, it's the same thing with heat maps with traffic and intersections and how I never really thought about that, but that makes a lot of sense. Like if you're if you're leaving city limits and you're like, well, how much traffic is pushing a little bit further down, is it worth buying land? Is it worth developing a little bit further? Am I going to get enough traffic count to do that?
Get your hands on all that data now. It's something. And and the thing is, it's just going to get put together faster. You're going to have access to it. And but it's just knowing how to do it. I've got some older agents in our office. They're like, no, I'm not going to learn all this stuff. But then, a couple of them said that. Next thing you know, guess who's using it the most? They got in there and found it to be so damn interesting. They absolutely love it. And go ahead.
It probably validates a lot of their opinions, right? Like those old school dudes that are probably super successful, or ladies, are probably the ones that have that inner feeling of like, yo, I feel like this is right because I've been watching this develop forever. But then they can go look at the data that you've aggregated via AI and all these other sources to be like, oh shit, I was right. And it makes them feel better. And I think a lot of people do look for that validation. I know me as an investor, I rely on my mortgage broker and my brokers that I'm always trying to verify the data that they're giving me. Hey, are these leases right? I look at CoStar, I look at Crexy, I do all the things I'm supposed to be doing, but at a certain point, you got to trust some of the industry experts to get there and to be able to hit that validation point.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, as an investor or a broker, time is our biggest thing, right? That's our biggest investment in our careers. And this gives you a lot of that time back if you know how to use those tools right. What we used to have to go out and drive for hours or half a day, you can do. I mean, we still drive it just to make sure we know everything going on in the area, but the data you can put together in minutes. And so it can really buy you back a lot of your time. And you can do more deals that way.
That's a lot of good info. Let's talk about this is going to come out on the backside of the election. It is the backside of the election when we're recording this. A lot of people are bullish for 2025 based on what happened. Others are upset. Whatever it is, what it is. Take the politics out of it. What do you think the next 24 months hold in commercial real estate? And I think you have a pretty good nationwide look from your community that allows you to give you a good understanding. What's your gut feeling on commercial real estate over the next 24 months?
I think we're looking pretty good. It depends on, obviously, if the interest rates continue to go down. Our phone, after the election, our phone started ringing, and our agents just got busy. And retail, it just keeps, there's a lot of store closures that you're probably seeing. A lot of store closures, setting records in some areas. But then I'm reading an article this morning. It was in Plain Vanilla Shell, or I don't know what I was reading, or Globe Street, and the amount of companies that are starting to expand on their franchising, it was a huge number. So I think you're going to see retail is really going to stay strong. Investment sales are starting to pick up pretty good. Offices are outlier, right? It's really, that's going to be something that we got to try and figure out. And multifamily in some areas is, they've got 30,000 apartment units coming on in New York. I think DFW has about the same. Austin has 10,000. You're seeing a lot more inventory coming on the market. So I think those are going to remain a little bit flatter, but industrial seems to be doing okay. But, this country always seems to come back, right? If making good investments is the way to go. And, I think that, retail is going to be a great place to be. You got to remember it's very localized. And that's what most people think is, real estate is so local. It's a few blocks around you, what you really have to analyze. And it's nice having data from the outer reaches of that, but people got to understand that we can sit here and talk about what we think is going to happen, but your marketplace within a few blocks is what you really want to focus on.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'll tell people, or I'll tell, folks that I talk to that, we've been lending on a lot of office buildings lately, and they'll be like, that's got to be the worst asset class. Why would you? And I'm like, I'm not lending on a skyscraper office in Manhattan. I'm lending on, a 6,000 square foot 5-unit office building in my local market. And at a low LTV, right? Like it's very localized, and things change.
Yeah.
The one thing that I think related to where the, quote unquote commercial market is, that I think is challenging for a lot of folks is, there's no secret that real estate appreciates over time. Long enough period of time, it appreciates a lot. And then I think this is also maybe residential real estate, not just commercial stuff, but a lot of stuff appreciated very quickly with a cheap rate environment for such a long period of time that, like even if it went down 10%, like it's still great. If you look at a trailing, 180 months. Yeah. And, does it take a dip before it continues to grow, or does it just grow and not dip? And I think that's challenging. And I think a lot of folks, see that of like, hey, did I miss out on my opportunity? And, I think I think we can all agree there's always good opportunities no matter what happens in the market. That's easy. But kind of on a macro level, do things go down before they go back up? And, who knows? And
I think we can all agree that patience is maybe the thing that is the most important. You just gotta and I got my ass handed to me on my second investment. We hit probably the worst thing that ever happened to me. My first investment was a 10-unit building in a terrible part of Los Angeles. But we sold it 7 years later. We bought it for 200 and something. And 7 years later, it was just almost 2 million. The area just popped. We just knew the area was going to change, and it did. So we kind of took our money and thought, well, we're going to buy this other building. A little bit arrogant, I guess. We bought a 3-story walk-up in Koreatown, which now Koreatown's a nice area, but 20 years ago, not so much. And never buy a 3-story walk-up. Getting those top floors occupied in a Hispanic area, it was tough. We got out even, but it was just, we should have been more patient. We just want to get another investment, and our patience cost us on that one. And I think patience and arrogance. We just thought, oh, we did it in that area. We did so well. Let's do it again. And we got lucky.
Yeah. I mean, at least you're playing with house money.
yeah, exactly. Right. But then we bought a 72 unit in Dallas. So, and that was a home run. So we got pretty lucky. First and third was good. Second one, not so much.
Well, I mean, and I think that's where it gets challenging because, like, Ian and I talk about this, and like, if you got into the self-storage space, over the last decade or even over the last 4 years, those, investors were buying, smaller scale facilities that were a little bit value add in like some smaller markets for like sub 20 a square foot, which would then intact, have 80, 100 per square foot valuations. I'm talking about smaller markets, obviously.
Sure, yeah.
And then, it's like, okay, well, I think it's probably time to take chips off the table, but in that case, because you're not going to see that amount of growth in such a long period of time. And I think that's hard for, buy and hold investors to see, because they're like, oh, I'm never selling. And it's like, you're not going to, you've already peaked like this. It's not going to peak like that again. It might grow, but then it's like, okay, well, if I take the chips off the table, then what do I invest in? And who knows? And sometimes you get lucky when you invest in the right asset class. But I guess, in my opinion, and I'm curious yours, if you're investing in something that's a cash flowing asset, you might not get that lucky big spurt, but like, that's the strategy. Something that's cash flowing.
That's what we like too. That's exactly what we look for. And we've missed on some opportunity. We were actually going to do some retail back in Texas, and we missed on it recently. Just some little strip centers. That's something I'd like to do. It's a strong community, and there was just some opportunity for some repositioning. But a lot of people are getting into that, and I think you're going to see more of it. I just think right now it's going to be a good time. The last few years, when interest rates were so cheap, it brought a lot of crazy money to the market, and people were overpaying. And I would see it even with some of our agents, the deals they were doing. I'm like, good Lord, these people aren't going to have this building very long. They're not going to be able to make it work. And you're telling these people, you're like, listen, I think you might want to hold off on that. Nope, we want it. And I'm like, okay, well, there was some of that, but I think it's all getting worked out now. I see that we've got a big wall of debt coming here in the next year or two. We've had some pretty significant workouts here, but let's hope they keep working it out. If the interest rates keep coming down, it's going to help a lot.
Yeah, and I think some of the negative cap rate stuff is going to go away. That's going to bail out some of these people in some really bad situations. That's going to allow them to end up in the positive. But dude, those guys that were buying apartment buildings in the 4 to 5 cap, I don't know what they're going to do, because you brought up multifamily and units coming online, is like, we just see an affordability issue. And I mean, we're high class C, low class B at one of our apartment buildings in Baltimore. And the affordability is down. And we talk about it all the time. It's like, yeah, we're pushing rates, but if we're not selling, isn't it more about the affordability of the tenant being able to execute? We see it in the self-storage game. Haven't seen it too much in the industrial space, but I don't know how much color you can give on apartments and where you see it going. I know there's Dallas-Fort Worth is not a fair comparison by any means, because that market is insane.
Yeah.
How do you feel about affordability and what's going to happen maybe in the multifamily space, and how that bleeds over to retail?
Yeah, we'll see. Now they've got construction starts have slowed down considerably. So it's stabilizing. I was reading an article the other day, and they said rents are stabilizing. And I think certain pockets, they're probably going to, when you have 30,000 units going into New York City, that's not that big of a market. I don't think rents are going to go down, but I think they're going to stay flat longer. Probably the same with DFW. Because there's a lot. We're there quite often, so we go back and visit our properties. There's a good amount of construction going on. People are remodeling properties right now, refurbishing them. There's a lot of that going, and they still have people moving in there. So I think it's still going to be a good investment. But man, the thing is when the times are so good, people weren't really doing the right analysis on the properties. They were really trying to do the appreciation play. And that's something I just am like, what? That's not guaranteed. Cash flow, we're firm believers in cash flow. But that appreciation game, I've seen a lot of people get their ass handed to them because they expected that appreciation to kick in, and it just didn't.
Yep. And Warren Buffett's got one thing on all of us. When people say, oh, well, Warren doesn't, Buffett doesn't sell anything. No shit. He's way older than all of us. He's been in the game the longest, and time corrects everything. We talk about it all the time. I talk to Jason about it all the time. He's way more transactional than I am, but our best performing assets are the stuff that we own the longest. Well, no shit. We've worked out all the kinks. Appreciations happened. We've refinanced it. We got secured debt at 10-year ago money, and it works out. But that also gives you an skewed sense of reality of buying a commercial asset and saying, well, these single family houses I've held forever and it's better. That's not always true in the commercial asset world. And, being able to sell, being an executor at market, that's probably the biggest thing that I've learned in the past several years. So, dude, this has been a really good insight, a real good look from a broker's point of view. A lot of times we get the brokers on here, we ask them, market specific, but it's interesting to see all the knowledge that you have and how you're computing the data. One thing we like to ask all our guests is, what's one book or podcast that you enjoy or you think everybody should know about?
There's one that I watch. It's industrial, and he's a friend of mine, but it's Chad Griffith, and he's got a really great thing going there. Very informational. He's got some great interviews, and I like him as far as in the real estate industry, but just overall. I don't know if anybody watches Diary of a CEO. It's a kid out of the UK, and he is Stephen Bartlett is his name, and I think it's one of the top podcasts in the UK. But he gets some really interesting people on there, so very good stuff.
I'll have to check that one out. I enjoy that one dude over in Dallas, Fort Worth, Chris Powers, the Ford.
Oh, yeah.
I enjoy, he's doing a pretty good podcast too. I love the quote unquote high level, in-depth conversations. It's fun to listen to and challenges your mind to what you're doing. Joe, where's the best? What was that? Sorry, what was that?
He knows his business too. He's good.
Yeah. He's a DFW boy. He's crushing it. So, with that being said, Joe, where's the best place people can find you on the internet? They want to learn more about your brokerage or how they can work with you, or just want to see what you're doing on the internet.
Go to the website behind me here, joekillinger.co, or in Los Angeles, we have a commercial brokerage company called Commercial Brokers International. You can reach me there as well, or Joe at joekillinger.co. Joe at joekillinger.co.
We'll get all that in the show notes. Joe, we appreciate your time. It was very knowledgeable. I'm interested to see. We'll have to mark this one, see what happens 2 years from now, see if your prediction's right, and bring you back. Huh? What's that?
We can only hope.
Yeah. Bet all your money on what Joe said. No, I'm just kidding.
Baby. Just keep, everything goes up.
Everything goes up. That's right. So, with that being said, guys, let's show Joe some love. Share the show. That's the best compliment we can give him. And guys, we will catch you on the next one.
Thanks for tuning in to the Real Estate Reserve Podcast. Do us a favor and like, comment, and share our broadcast. It helps the algorithm and helps us spread the word too. Till next time, thank you for tuning in.